Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be organizing Witchstone, designed by Rainer Knizia and Martino Cecchiera and published by R&R Games and Hutch. Now, with that being said, this is a fully sleeved copy of the game with no lid lift, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. And without further ado, let's get started organizing Witchstone. Now, first off, we'll lift off that lid here, and inside you'll see that we have all of the player screens on top. You want to put them on top so they're not going to get crushed by anything else, because you don't want to damage those folds when you play so they don't fall down from game to game. So place all these player screens on top. Next, we've got a player aid here. Just once again, put it on top, make sure it doesn't stay damaged. This is going to give you some different ability actions, the explanation, as well as all of the setup and round structure, and then the course of the game and endgame scoring. Underneath that, we have all of the player components. Each player is going to have their player tiles, as well as their connection markers, their gemstones, their large witch and small witches, and lastly, one of these black gemstones that you'll need to put in the center of your cauldron. So you can just put these into a plastic bag, toss it to the player, they dump it out, sort them onto the appropriate spots on their board, and then they're ready to go. So you have one of those for each of the players, got one for green, for blue, and lastly for red. All 4 player colors. Underneath that, we have this small purple bag here. This is going to have all of your little tokens, your bonus 2-point tokens. You will shuffle these up at the start of each game. So once again, a nice bag is fine to do so, and then you'll allocate them on the board appropriately. This is one of those games where you're going to have lots of tokens here that have specific spots on the board where they go. So it's fine to just put them into plastic bags because it is going to be a little bit fiddly setting them up on the board anyway. So just putting them in a bag here randomizes them from the get-go. So no issues here. These are all of your 2-point purple bonus tokens. And continuing talking about those tokens, we have in here a small organizer that's going to hold the rest of the tokens, and these are specifically for the Pentagram action. So these are all your 4, 5, 6, and 7-point tokens. You'll put them onto the Pentagram spot on the board, and just like those little purple tokens, they have a specific spot they go in. So you can just put them in a little plastic bag, but we have them in this nice 3D printed organizer that we use, and you definitely don't need this. We just had a lot of extras lying around because frankly, this was for a game of Quacks of Quedlinburg, but they didn't fit any of the upgraded tokens, so we ended up not using them. But they work really well for this because they do keep them nice and organized in their specific areas, and it's easy to place them and set them up for each game. So this is going to be all of your ×2 tiles for that action for the Pentagram, as well as the points. So this is a nice slide top. I'll leave a link in the description below for the file that we used for this one. But once again, you can definitely just use a plastic bag for this. Underneath that, we have all of your player cards here. We actually are using a Burger Tokens brand box, size 43S. These are the perfect fit containers. I really like these because they're clear, they're nice plastic that is super easy to fold, create, and they protect your cards well. You can get them for about 25 cents each, so they're really cheap, and generally we buy them in bulk here. Now the cards themselves, these are going to be your endgame scoring cards, so all of your scroll actions as well as those bonus actions as you play. And the size of sleeve that we use here are the Game-Genic. These are the standard American board game slide sleeves. I'll leave a link in the description below for the different sleeves that we use. So that's all of your cards in here. You'll sleeve them up and then just put them onto the board when you're ready to go. So we just close that lid up, and that is all of our scroll cards. Underneath that, we have all of your player boards. These are 1 for each color. You notice the color on the side here. They all look very similar though. No real differences. We've got a silica gel packet in here for freshness, as well as a reference for the solo mode of the game. I'll leave a link in the description below for the solo mode for Witchstone that we use to kind of get some practice runs in and to get comfortable with the systems, and we find it works well. So just laminate it so it stays nice and safe, and just place it on top. Next, we have the game board. You just place that on the bottom. It's a little heavy, so it may crush things, which is why we don't place it on top of the player shields, because we want to keep those player shields nice and unflattened. And lastly, we have the rulebook here. This is a pretty dang big rulebook that has all of the languages inside. So you're only going to need it every once in a while, just as a reminder of setup or for checking specific conditions or objectives. But we'll put it in the bottom here because we don't really use it. So it usually ends up staying in the box. And that is everything in the box. Let's go ahead and pack it up. First off, we have our rulebook, followed by our game board, our solo components, our reference card, our player boards, our silica gel packet for freshness, your scroll cards, your tokens of different varieties, all of your player components on top here, and lastly, our player screens. And that is organizing Witchstone. How do you organize your copy of Witchstone? Is this one that you've been able to play yet? What do you think of the game overall? Are you excited for the new expansions that were released? I'd love to hear what you think. But thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.